Hey, my name is Luke. I'm 29. 3 weeks ago, I sent a half-buttoned mirror photo to the wrong person, and when I realized it was my boss, married, wealthy, untouchable, I thought my career was over. Then my phone buzzed. "I'll be in your place in 30 min." I stood in my apartment doorway at midnight, smelling sandalwood and vanilla, as Evelyn Hart stepped inside, took off her heels, and whispered, "I'm not here for anything physical. I just had a night I couldn't go home to." By the time I found out she owned my building, it was already too late to walk away. If you're watching this right now, tell me where you're from in the comments, because I still don't know if what we did was wrong. I woke up Monday at 4:30 in the morning, same as always. The train into the financial district was half empty. I liked it that way. I sat near the window and practiced breathing slowly, the way you do when you're trying to convince yourself the day won't go wrong. Rent was due in 4 days. I checked my bank app twice, like the numbers might change if I refreshed enough times. They didn't. I got to the office before anyone else and reset the conference room exactly how she liked it. Water pitcher angled just so. Chairs perfectly aligned. I wiped down the glass table even though it didn't need it. It was stupid, maybe. But Evelyn Hart noticed details. And when she noticed you getting things right, she said your first name like it actually mattered. I saw her reflection in the glass before I saw her directly. Perfect posture. Tired eyes. She moved like someone who'd been performing for so long she forgot what it felt like to slouch. "Luke," she said quietly. "Thank you." 2 words. But the way she said my name made my chest feel warm in a way I didn't want to think about. Mia Reynolds caught me in the break area 20 minutes later. She leaned against the counter with her coffee, smiling like she knew something I didn't. "You're always the first one in," she said. "Trying to make the rest of us look bad?" I shrugged. "Just like being ahead of things." She took a sip. "Hey, did you hear? Hart was at some charity dinner last night. Big donor event." "Yeah?" "Yeah, without his wife." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Later that morning, I handed Evelyn a printed agenda. Our fingers brushed. It was nothing. An accident. But her hands were cold. Really cold. Like she'd been standing outside for hours. I thought about that longer than I should have. Around lunch, I overheard 2 senior guys talking in the hallway. One of them said, "Hart Properties," like it was just another name on a list. They were discussing corporate leases, office buildings, residential stuff too. I filed it away without thinking much of it. That afternoon, I left early for once. The doorman in my building greeted me by name and mentioned something about a tenant notice coming tomorrow. I nodded and rode the elevator up, feeling uneasy without knowing why. That evening, I met Ben Parker at a bar near my place. Cheap beer, loud TV, the kind of spot where loneliness doesn't feel so sharp because everyone else is alone too. Ben grinned at me from across the booth. "So, still dating your job?" "Shut up." "I'm serious, man. When's the last time you actually went out with someone?" I looked at my beer. I've been focusing on stability. "Stability?" He laughed. "You're 29. You're allowed to have a little fun." I deflected, told him work was intense, that my boss was hard to read. He talked about his own dating disasters for a while, and I let him. It was easier than explaining that I hadn't really been with anyone since my last serious relationship ended 2 years ago. Easier than admitting I was too tired most nights to even try. When I walked home, the rain was starting. I passed the building's lobby board on the way in. Maintenance notices. A flyer for some resident reception later in the week. I ignored it. Upstairs in my apartment, I scrolled through a dating app half-heartedly. Swiped on a few people. Messaged back and forth with someone I'd matched with a week ago. She seemed nice. Normal. Safe. Then I thought, maybe I should try harder. Be a little bolder. So I loosened my collar, pulled my tie off, held it in my fist like I was someone confident, someone who didn't overthink everything. I took a photo in the mirror. It looked nothing like me, and that felt good for about 10 seconds. I hesitated, adjusted the lighting, took another one. Then I opened my messages to send it. Established narrator voice, and mapped Chapter 3 transition point. Good. I'm establishing Luke as the narrator, following the outline closely. Now I need to continue into Chapter 3, where he accidentally sends it to Evelyn. Let me keep the pacing tight and the tone consistent. My thumb hovered over the send button. A work notification popped up. I flipped between message threads quickly, distracted, trying to clear the alert. Then I hit send. For about 3 seconds I felt fine. Then I looked at the name at the top of the screen. Evelyn Hart. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might be sick. I tried to delete it, scrambled for the option to unsend, to make it disappear for everyone. But the word seen was already sitting there under the photo like a death sentence. I drafted an apology, deleted it, drafted another one. Too many words, not enough. Everything sounded worse than the last version. Then my phone buzzed. Her reply was a single line. I'll be in your place in 30 minutes. I stared at it, read it 5 times, tried to figure out if she was coming to fire me, to yell at me, to remind me I'd just ruined my career with one stupid photo. I called Ben, hung up before it connected. I couldn't tell him, couldn't admit what I'd done. I paced my apartment, checked the time. 27 minutes left. Then I remembered something. I grabbed my lease folder, off the shelf, and opened it. Scanned through the pages until I found the property management header. Hart Properties Management. My mouth went dry. She didn't need my address. She already owned the building. I spent the next 25 minutes trying to make my apartment look less pathetic. Wiped down the counters, shoved dirty laundry into the closet, rebuttoned my shirt. Stared at myself in the mirror and realized there was no version of professional that made sense anymore. Mrs. Collins knocked on my door. My neighbor, sweet woman, talked too much. Luke, honey, I'm sorry to bother you, but could you tell people to stop leaving wet umbrellas in the hallway? It's making puddles. I cracked the door open. She smiled too brightly and tried to peer past me into the apartment. Yeah, sure, I'll mention it. She lingered. I closed the door gently before she could say more. My phone buzzed. Lobby. No emoji, no softness. I went into the hallway and stood near the elevator. Every ding made my chest tighten. Then the intercom in my apartment buzzed. The front desk. Mr. Dawson, Ms. Hart is here to see you. The doorman's voice was calm, polite, like she belonged anywhere. I pressed the button to let her up. My hand was shaking. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. Evelyn stood there with her coat draped over one arm and a small overnight bag in her hand. Her eyes looked tired. Her expression was unreadable. I held the door open. She stepped inside like she was stepping out of noise and into air. She took off her heels first. Just slipped them off and stood there in socks. Suddenly she looked human. I started to apologize. The words were already forming. But she stopped me. Don't, she said softly. She asked for water. I got her a glass. She sat down on my couch like she'd been carrying weight all day and finally had permission to put it down. I stayed standing. Didn't know what else to do. Sit, she said. Please. The height difference feels like a power play. I sat, on the opposite end of the couch, as far from her as I could get. I'm not here for anything physical, she said quietly. I just had a night I couldn't go home to. I didn't know what to say to that. Does your husband know you're here?" She looked at her hands. "He knows I needed space." The intercom buzzed again. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was maintenance. Something about a package misdelivery. I answered as calmly as I could, trying not to sound suspicious, trying not to let my voice crack while she sat 3 feet away from me. When I hung up, Evelyn was watching me. "Your hands are shaking," she said. I looked down. She was right. She stood up slowly and placed her coat on the chair, like she decided to stay for a while. I went to the kitchen, made coffee I didn't want, gave myself something to do with my hands. The coffee was terrible, overbrewed, bitter. But we drank it anyway. We sat in the kitchen. Dim, light, quiet. Evelyn leaned against the counter and told me her marriage felt like a calendar, a performance. She said she couldn't remember the last time someone let her just be soft. I told her I grew up with a single mom who cleaned houses, that I hated owing anyone anything, that I lived in this building because I wanted to look like I belonged in my job, even though the rent was slowly breaking me. She asked why I didn't just move somewhere cheaper. I didn't have a good answer. "Pride," I finally said. She nodded, like she understood that better than I did. Then she laughed, quietly, at something I'd said. I don't even remember what it was, but the sound hit me like warmth spreading through my chest. Her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a name. Richard. She didn't open it, just flipped the phone face down on the counter. I saw the restraint, the fear behind it. I offered her the couch. She said no at first. Then I told her I'd take the floor. She didn't want me uncomfortable in my own home. So she stayed. I lay on a blanket on the floor, staring at the ceiling. She was on the couch, turned away, one hand resting on the edge of the cushion like she was holding on to the night. The rain tapped against the window. I listened to her breathe, and I knew I was in trouble. I woke up a few hours later to quiet movement in the kitchen. Evelyn was rinsing her coffee mug, hair slightly messy, sleeves rolled once, trying not to leave a trace. I sat up. She glanced over. "I didn't want to wake you," she said. "It's fine." I offered her toast. Coffee. She took 2 bites of toast and half a cup of coffee. That was it. Then she asked me calmly what I wanted from her. I answered honestly. "Nothing. I just didn't want you to be alone last night." She nodded, like the answer hurt and comforted her at the same time. We heard footsteps in the hallway. Mrs. Collins's door opened, closed. We both went still. First taste of real risk. Evelyn put her heels back on, armor returning. She told me that at work we'd pretend this never happened. I nodded. She paused at the door, looked back at me. "Luke," she said quietly. Just my name, like a confession she couldn't make out loud. Then she walked toward the elevator. The ding swallowed her. I stood alone in my doorway. Her perfume still lingered on my couch. Sandalwood and vanilla. I hated how much I wanted it back. I went straight to the office that morning, tried to look normal. My phone felt heavier than usual in my pocket. Evelyn arrived late morning, greeted me with perfect professional distance. No eye contact that lasted too long, no softness. I felt relieved and gutted. Mia noticed I looked tired, asked if I was okay. "Leak in my apartment," I lied smoothly, "was up half the night." She seemed to buy it. Then Evelyn did something that surprised me. She asked me to take on a high-visibility presentation prep for Thursday. Important client. Big stakes. It was a trust signal. Or a leash. I wasn't sure which. Later I went to the copy room. Evelyn appeared behind me. For a second we were alone in the hum of the machines. She didn't mention the night. She just said, "Thank you for not making it worse." I nodded. Couldn't speak. Our eyes held a second too long. Then Mia walked in. The air changed instantly. Mia's gaze flicked between us. Subtle. Sharp. I went back to my desk. An email notification popped up. Access update. I clicked it. Nothing had changed yet. But the subject line sat there like a warning. That evening I stayed late. The office emptied out. The building's nighttime quiet felt like a secret. Evelyn emailed me. Conference room, 10 minutes. No explanation. I walked in. She was alone. Shoes off under the table, rubbing her temples. Private exhaustion showing through the cracks. We worked together on Thursday's presentation. Our collaboration felt intimate in a way I didn't expect. We finished each other's sentences, anticipated what the other needed. At one point, Evelyn told me she'd slept in her guest room last night after she got home. I didn't ask why. I just listened. We both reached for a marker at the same time. Our fingers brushed. We pulled back immediately, like we'd touched flame. "Did anyone see me?" she asked quietly. "At your building?" I answered honestly. "The doorman confirmed your visit, and Mrs. Collins was in the hallway in the morning." Her face tightened. New fear. She left first, walked out like nothing had happened. I stayed behind, stared at the empty chair where she'd been sitting. The ache hit late, but it hit hard. When I got home that night, the doorman greeted me at the lobby desk. "Ms. Hart was here yesterday," he said casually. "She's always so composed, isn't she?" The words were innocent, but they sounded like danger. I forced a laugh. Headed to the elevator. My pulse was spiking. Upstairs, Mrs. Collins appeared in her doorway with a trash bag. Perfectly timed. "Luke, honey, did you have company last night? I thought I heard the elevator pretty late." "Just my friend Ben," I lied. She smiled, nodded. Didn't believe me. I texted Ben, asked him to come over briefly. I needed a witness story. He showed up 20 minutes later, annoyed but loyal. "What's going on?" he asked. I told him it was complicated, that someone had been at my place and it could mess up my job if people found out. He pressed. I refused to say who. Man, if this is about power dynamics, it's not like that. "Then what is it like?" I didn't answer. He made me promise I'd stay away from trouble. I didn't promise. I just stayed silent. Ben left, told me to be smart. I sat alone on my couch afterward, noticed the faint sandalwood scent still embedded in the fabric. I hated myself for wanting it back. Wednesday morning I rode the train in on almost no sleep. My phone kept buzzing with work emails. I checked it compulsively, like it might explode. At the office, Mia mentioned a rumor. Richard Hart might attend Thursday's presentation. Big donor involvement. She said it like office trivia. I felt it like a threat. Evelyn assigned me to handle guest logistics for Thursday. Seating charts, timing, materials. It put me close to Richard's orbit. All day Evelyn avoided being alone with me, but her eyes found me when she thought no one was looking. At lunch I stepped outside for air. Evelyn appeared beside me, silent, just standing there. "Be careful tomorrow," she said. Then she walked away before I could respond. That evening I went to see my mother. Janet Dawson lived in a small apartment across town. Warm, lived in, the kind of place that smelled like coffee and old books. She took one look at me and knew I was exhausted. "Sit," she said. "I'll make you something." She didn't ask too many questions, just fed me. Maternal habit. I asked her about her old housekeeping jobs. Carefully, like I was just curious. She mentioned she'd worked for a Hart family years ago. Didn't dwell on it. My chest tightened. What was the woman of the house like? Lonely, she said quietly. Always dressed like she was going somewhere. I looked at the photo on her shelf. My mom in a staff uniform, standing in front of a big staircase. "Can I borrow this?" I asked. "For a frame. I want a piece of home in my apartment." She agreed. I almost told her about Evelyn, but I stopped, protecting everyone by staying silent. The secrecy tasted bitter. I rode the train home, holding the photo carefully, stared at my reflection in the dark window. Wondered when my life became something I couldn't explain. Back at my apartment, I framed the photo and set it on my shelf, facing outward, like a quiet anchor. Then I rehearsed Thursday's logistics, checked seating charts until my eyes burned. Evelyn sent me a short email, no subject line. "Thank you for today." I read it 5 times. Mrs. Collins knocked, brought me leftover cookies, tried to peer into my apartment again. I kept the door barely open. That night I barely slept, kept waking to the sound of elevator dings in my dreams. In the early morning, a building notice slipped under my door. Resident reception, Thursday evening, hosted by Hart Properties. The timing felt like a trap. I set my alarm, stared at the couch where her scarf used to be, and I waited for Thursday like it was a door I couldn't avoid opening. Thursday morning, I arrived at the office early, hands shaking slightly, determined to be flawless. The presentation started late morning. Evelyn was brilliant, composed, every word precise. I managed the slides and timing like my life depended on it. Then Richard Hart walked in. He was early, unexpected. He moved through the room with controlled charm, shaking hands, smiling at the right moments. When he got to me, his handshake was firm. His eyes assessed me like I was a column in a spreadsheet. "Luke Dawson," I said. "Richard Hart. You work closely with my wife, I understand?" "Yes, sir. She's an excellent boss." He smiled, nodded. Moved on. Mia watched my reaction from across the room. I could feel her attention like heat. During a break, Richard stepped into Evelyn's office. The door closed. I couldn't hear the words, just the cadence of tension through the glass. After the presentation ended, Evelyn thanked everyone and left quickly. My phone buzzed. A text. From Evelyn. First non-email message since Monday night. "Tonight, same place. I can't go home yet." I remembered the resident reception downstairs in my building tonight. I texted back a warning. "My building has a reception downstairs. People will be around." Her reply came fast. "I'll come later. Don't meet me in the lobby." That evening, I rode the elevator up from the lobby after passing through the reception setup. White tablecloths, name tags, too many smiling strangers shaking hands with the Hart Properties reps. I locked my apartment door and waited. Breath held. Around 10:30, the voices downstairs faded. The reception wound down. Then I heard it. A soft knock, not loud, not confident, careful, like a request. I opened the door. Evelyn stepped in without her heels, coat damp from rain. Her eyes were bright, like she'd been holding tears back in the elevator. "What happened?" I asked. She sat down on the couch, didn't answer right away. "Richard asked me where I was Monday night," she finally said. "He didn't accuse, he just asked, calmly, like he was curious." "What did you tell him?" "That I went for a drive, needed to clear my head." She looked at her hands. "The calm is worse than yelling. It means he's thinking." I offered coffee. She shook her head. Then she looked at my shelf. At the framed photo of my mother in the staff uniform, standing in front of that big staircase. Evelyn went still. "That's Janet," she whispered. I froze. "You know her?" Evelyn stood up slowly, walked closer to the photo. "When I was a teenager," she said quietly, I used to sneak into the kitchen late at night. I couldn't sleep in that house. It was too big, too quiet. Your mother, she was kind to me. She'd make me tea and never tell anyone I was up. She covered for me. My heart was pounding. She remembered you, I said, when I asked about the Hart family. She said you looked lonely, always dressed like you were going somewhere. Evelyn's eyes filled. She blinked it back. I've thought about her kindness for 20 years, Evelyn said, and now here you are? The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I didn't plan what happened next. I just moved. I lifted my hand, slowly, carefully, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her eyes closed. I leaned forward, rested my forehead gently against her temple. Just for a second. Maybe 2. Her breath caught. I pulled away before it became more. We both stood there, breathing like we'd run miles without moving. Thank you, she whispered. Not for the touch, for the restraint. She sat back down on the couch, fingers twisting together. I sat on the floor across from her, keeping distance. Both of us shaken by how close we'd come to crossing a line we couldn't uncross. The intercom buzzed. Sharp, sudden, Evelyn's whole body tensed. I answered it carefully. The doorman's voice came through. Professional. Calm. Ms. Hart, there's a driver downstairs asking for you. Evelyn went pale. She checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Richard. A text message. Car is waiting. She stood quickly, grabbed her coat. He doesn't know I'm in your unit, she said quietly. But he's tracking my movements. Driver, staff, routine. She looked at me like she wanted to say something true, but she couldn't. I offered to walk her to a side exit. She refused. Too risky. She left through my door, posture already rebuilding into composure. I listened to her steps fade toward the elevator. Every ding felt like a countdown. Friday morning I woke up and opened my work laptop. My calendar had been altered, meetings removed, access to a shared folder denied, a quiet erasure. I got dressed and went to the office like everything was normal, even though my stomach was tied in knots. Mia greeted me in the lobby. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. You okay? Yeah, fine. She didn't believe me. I checked with IT casually about the access changes. They said it came from leadership. No further explanation. Evelyn passed me in the hallway, gave me a professional nod like I was a stranger. It hurt more than anger would have. In the team huddle that afternoon, I was reassigned to lower visibility tasks. No official demotion, no paperwork, just social reality shifting beneath my feet. Mia pulled me aside after the meeting. Did you do something? She asked gently. No, I said. Too quickly. She didn't push, but her eyes said she was storing it. That evening I went home. Mrs. Collins was in the lobby chatting with someone from the building staff near the elevators. She smiled at me when I passed, like she knew a story she hadn't told yet. I couldn't hold it alone anymore. I went to Ben's apartment that night. He opened the door, took one look at me, and sighed. Okay, he said. Tell me the version you can live with. I sat on his couch, told him about the accidental photo. Didn't name her at first. Then I admitted it was my boss. Married, wealthy, and that we'd crossed lines even without anything physical happening. Ben was quiet for a long time. That's power, man, he finally said. That's not romance. She didn't pressure me, I said. She was lonely, not predatory. Doesn't matter. She's your boss. She's married. You're living in a building she owns. He rubbed his face. How many times has she been to your place? Twice? Ben exhaled hard. That's where people get caught. Buildings, doormen, neighbors. He helped me plan damage control. No texts, no calls, keep behavior clean, avoid being alone with her. Then he said something I didn't want to hear. You should consider moving when your lease ends. I laughed bitterly. I can barely afford where I am now. Ben looked at me like he was seeing something I couldn't. Then you're trapped, he said, and that's the worst place to fall for someone. I walked home in the cold, realizing the thing I was trapped by wasn't just Evelyn. It was the life I'd built to look like I belonged. Saturday morning, I found a flyer taped near the mailboxes. Hart Properties resident check-in plucked a coffee, 11 a.m. Mrs. Collins cornered me in the hallway. You're going, right? She said brightly. We should all show face. I couldn't avoid it without looking suspicious. So I went downstairs at 11, tried to blend in. A Hart Properties rep stood near the coffee table. Polished, professional, shaking hands with residents. The doorman introduced me as a resident and also a professional downtown. I felt visible in the worst way. Mrs. Collins chatted loudly about late-night visitors in the building. Her tone could have been innocent or pointed. I couldn't tell. I noticed a clipboard with tenant notes. Worried my unit number was on it for noise complaints or guest frequency. Nothing was confirmed. Just anxiety crawling up my spine. I escaped back upstairs as soon as I could. Heart racing, realizing how many eyes existed in a building designed to feel private. That evening I cleaned my apartment obsessively, like I could scrub the feeling out of the furniture. While moving the couch to vacuum, something caught my eye. A silk scarf, wedged behind the cushion. Expensive. Soft, unmistakably hers. I held it in my hands, felt the full weight of the connection, a physical object proving she'd been here. I debated returning it through office channels. Too risky. Mailing it. Too traceable. Keeping it. Too intimate. I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer, then took it out again, unable to decide. Mrs. Collins knocked. Asked if I could help carry a small box downstairs. I helped, tried to act normal. She watched my hands like she was searching for perfume. Back inside, I finally placed the scarf in a plain grocery bag at the back of my closet, like hiding a forbidden truth. Sunday morning, I went into the office. The building was open for badge access. I needed to prep for Monday, needed to feel in control of something. Empty office. Humming lights, just me and the silence. I printed documents, organized folders, tried to prove I was still useful. A security guard recognized me, made small talk about Ms. Hart's long hours lately. I nodded, kept my face neutral. I checked my inbox, saw a new meeting scheduled for Monday morning. Check-in, leadership. No details. I left the office and ran into Richard Hart in the lobby. Unexpected, but plausible. He had weekend access for events. He looked me over with calm politeness. You work closely with Evelyn, don't you? He said. Yes, sir. She's an excellent leader. Richard smiled, like he was learning something, not accusing. Yet. Good to know, he said. She values reliable people. I felt the danger shift. It wasn't about being caught doing something explicit. It was about being suspected of existing in her private space. Sunday night I lay in bed, phone face down, listening to rain, imagining Monday as a door I couldn't avoid opening. Monday morning the check-in meeting was brief, painfully polite. They questioned my focus, reassigned me, reminded me about professional boundaries without naming Evelyn. I left the meeting feeling humiliated, powerless. Mia caught me afterward. If you need someone to cover your shifts this week, she said quietly, I can. Her kindness stung worse than cruelty. Evelyn passed me in the hallway later. I'm sorry, she said. Didn't stop walking. It was the closest thing to truth I'd gotten in days. That night I went home early, sat on the couch, stared at the closet where the scarf was hidden. I fell asleep with my phone on my chest. At 2:04 a.m. the phone buzzed. I sat up, heart pounding, a text from Evelyn. Did I leave something at your place? I looked out the window. The building's porch light flickered on near the side entrance. My hands shook as I typed back. Yes. I grabbed the grocery bag with the scarf, headed into the hallway, listening for elevator sounds. I took the stairs, avoided cameras, avoided chance encounters, reached the basement laundry room. Quiet, fluorescent, no glamour. Evelyn was already there, coat on, hair down, hands trembling slightly. She looked smaller outside the office. I couldn't sleep, she said. I handed her the scarf. Our fingers didn't touch at first. Then she let them brush my knuckles. Brief, electric, restrained. Richard has been watching my routine, she said quietly. Drivers, calendars, staff. I can't be careless again. Then don't come if it puts you in danger. It's not danger, she said. It's consequence. We agreed on a new rule. No messages during the day. No meetings alone at the office. If she needed air, she'd text one word. Porch. I'd meet her only in low-risk spaces. Laundry room, side entrance. Never in my apartment again. Not for now. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. We went silent, held our breath. A building staff member passed by without entering, close enough to make Evelyn's breath catch. When it was safe again, Evelyn wrapped the scarf around her neck. Not for warmth, for courage. Thank you for not turning me into a story, she whispered. Then she left first. Disappeared into the stairwell. I stayed behind, listening to the hum of the washing machines, wondering what we'd just become. 2 weeks passed. Tuesday, 2:11 a.m. I waited by the laundry room door. She came. We talked for 11 minutes. Then she left. Friday, 1:48 a.m. The porch light flickered. I was already awake, already dressed, already moving. Sunday, 3:05 a.m. Rain tapped the window. I held a mug of coffee I didn't drink, waiting. Each meeting stayed small, restrained. A scarf returned and borrowed again. A quiet conversation. A shared silence. Never explicit. Never dramatic. I learned that Evelyn wasn't asking to be saved. She was asking to be witnessed, for a few minutes at a time. Mia stopped probing at work. She just became kinder. Covered for me when I looked worn down. Like she suspected something but chose not to weaponize it. Mrs. Collins stayed watchful. One night she was in the hallway at 2 a.m. I had to pretend I was taking out trash. The risk didn't disappear. It just became part of the routine. Evelyn admitted one night that she might never change her life publicly. I admitted I might never stop wanting what I couldn't name. We didn't label it. We didn't promise. Then one night the porch light flickered and stayed on longer than usual. I went downstairs expecting her. The laundry room was empty, but the scarf was there, draped over a laundry cart, left like a signal. She'd come. She couldn't stay. But she wanted me to know she'd tried. I waited anyway. After several minutes, Evelyn appeared at the far end of the hallway, moving slowly, like she was choosing each step. I didn't reach for her. I just stood there, steady, letting her come to me at her own pace. She stopped a few feet away, close enough to hear me breathe. Some doors don't swing wide open, I said quietly. Sometimes they just stay cracked, and you learn how to breathe in the space between. She nodded. We stood there in the fluorescent light of a basement laundry room, not touching, not promising, not ending, just existing in the space we'd carved out. And that was enough. For now. Some nights, the porch light still turns on,